Is the April meeting of the Citizens Communication Council. I'm Arthur Hartel. I'm Vice Chairman, and I'm sitting in this evening for Tom Glenn, who cannot be with us. I would like to open the meeting with a few announcements. One dealing with a piece of business that was before this council, which was an ordinance with regard to applications for bandwidth on poles and so on in the township. Steve, do you want to tell us where that is?
Certainly. Good evening. The final draft copy of the new ordinance regarding wireless communications devices was forwarded to Mr. Granger, our interim manager, and Mr. Rice, our interim solicitor, and they are reviewing same and will report back to me as soon as they come to the decision what the next step's going to be. So I will get back to the council as soon as I know.
Okay, and I would assume at that point that we will publish it for public comment and then take it up at the May meeting if we move that promptly along.
I will certainly suggest that. They haven't given me the direction yet as to which way it's going to go, but I will certainly suggest that to them.
Okay, good, thank you. The second announcement, you might tell everyone what the new broadcasting or internet casting is with regard to public meetings.
Certainly. We've recently put together a new feature on our website, www.radnor.com, where we are now streaming our meetings. Any meeting that is held in this room, public meeting that is recorded, is broadcast, as you know, on Channel 10 and Channel 30, but we also now are placing those videos on the Radnor.com website. We are keeping 1 month's worth of meetings on the web. Usually contains 2 commissioners' meetings and any of the other boards and committee meetings held that month. They are usually on the website the following day after the meeting and no longer than 24 hours after the meeting. We also have available the slides that you'll see on the scrolls that run on Comcast and Verizon Fios. Those slides are on the website right now. We're also very soon going to have the ability to move forward and back through the slides so that in case you see something on the scroll and it goes by and you miss something, you can then bring it up on the web and get more information from the slides. So those two new additions are on the web right now.
Good, thank you. Steve, are they indexed in some way on the web so that you can select the meeting that you want to see? Or do you have to just scroll through? How's it?
You can scroll, you have to scroll through to see them. There's usually anywhere from 60 to 70 slides, sometimes more, sometimes a little less. But they're grouped in order, so in other words, all the meetings are together, the police department slides are together, and but we are giving the ability, Mr. Doling has been working on some enhancements to it, so you'll be able to move forward, move back, and that should be very soon. That should come up very soon.
Good. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. Any questions?
Steve, yeah. I'm sorry. With respect to the video, are there any particular applications or special software that residents need to have installed on their computers to see that?
Absolutely not. It runs directly from the web page. There's the ability to zoom it up to a full screen if you like, or if you want to keep a small 2-inch by 2-inch window, you can view that also. So the ability is there. There's no special software needed. Right from the web page.
And it's Windows or Mac or whatever.
Yes, whatever you have.
Okay.
Also, yeah, like I say, there's no special software, and like I said, you could view it in a small screen, or you can zoom it by right mouse clicking on the window and zoom to full screen, and it will do that also.
Thanks, Steve.
All right.
Steve, is that www.radnor.com or .gov?
No, it's radnor.com.
.com.
Yes,
okay.
and on the front page, under the highlights, you'll see the streaming video link, and you can click on that, and it'll take you right to the page, and then you'll see the entire list of meetings there for the past 30 days.
Okay.
We've
I
had
just
it up
wanted
and
to
running
make
for-
sure it was com, not gov.
Now, it's Radnor.com. We've had it running for approximately 30 days now, so you'll see a full month's worth of meetings.
Yeah. Okay, great, thanks.
Okay.
Any other questions? Thank you very much. Report from Studio 21. George Strimmel.
Thank you very much. I commend the Township and everyone else for getting involved with additional outreach and additional programming. And we will note that some others are involved. Mainline Media News, the publisher of our local newspaper, has also been posting some video of highlights of activities here at the Township. And certainly some local citizens have been taking some of the feed and putting it on YouTube. So you will find it everywhere. And I think that we talk always about transparency. This is a terrific move forward. I commend all those involved with it. But I'm here to talk about Radnor Studio 21. And we continue in this election season with presenting programming of candidates and others to express their opinion. That's part of what we're all about. I also can basically make the report for Comcast, since I noticed they are not here and knew they were not going to be here. I've talked this day to both Tony Calantonio and to Kevin Broadhurst about, okay, where is it with our last meeting? If you remember, at the last meeting of this organization, we talked about, okay, there is a contract with Comcast, and that contract requires certain activities, not the least of which was inspection. Tony Calantonio, who was here, said, well, we're going to get on that right away. I commend them. They got on it right away. They sent a technician up, not necessarily a broadcast technician, but a technician who did indeed verify that everything we've been saying for the last, I can't even remember how many months, was true. Okay, he went back and he reported, and I then received a call from Kevin that they were going to act upon it. That was similar to the conversation we had today. They are going to act upon it. What they're going to do is they're going to send out someone not of Comcast to talk about how we may reconstruct, indeed, perhaps resurrect this 25-year-old equipment. How much will it cost and how much will it take? I told him that I personally, as a professional, am not interested in going backward in time. I mean, I don't want I/O cameras with rack-mounted lenses on them anymore, thank you.
Hand crank, George.
What's that?
Hand crank.
That's right, steam powered. Don't forget that part. So I indicated to him, okay, send someone out, and let's hear what it would cost to bring these things back up to something vaguely resembling broadcast standards. And then tell me the number. And maybe Radnor Studio 21 can combine some outside funding that we've gathered for 2009 in the way of spending some money to get into the digital age. I am no longer interested, although I may come from the analog world, I'm no interest in living in the analog world. So the deal as it now stands is indeed Comcast will send someone up, provide some numbers to bring back to life what we have, but not necessarily to do it. And then we will negotiate perhaps that as a contribution into some grant monies that I've been able to gather, and maybe we can finally get in to where we ought to be, and ought to have been back in the 20th century.
Okay. George, two questions. First, is there a time frame associated with their getting back to you?
You mean
When?
how much could I bug somebody?
Yeah,
that's
when?
about it at this moment. There is no tick-tock time frame. I did not hear a date definite.
Okay. Secondly, I would appreciate it if you, after you've had your meeting and before a decision is made, that you come back to the council. There are certain requirements in their agreement which may require them to go beyond just restoring that equipment to its...
Mr. Broadhurst said to me this very day that they will not buy new equipment. I can't go any further than that definitive answer.
What does the contract say? And we have a new solicitor, maybe he should be reviewing it.
We may...
This is outrageous, I mean, it seems to me.
Well...
Well, you know they're struggling. No, that was...
Jim, I think, you know, I think that's probably makes some sense. We will put together something to send to our solicitor and get his advice, but my reading of the contract, it goes beyond merely restoring something that's 50 years old. So
certainly the contract speaks to that, but not as definitively as we would like.
That's
since
correct.
The contract happens to be, you know, sort of burned into my heart. But the fact is that they are obligated on a quarterly basis to inspect and bring up to a broadcast level, to a level that is equal with all other that is available in your home via cable. They can say, well, maybe we can fix this stuff and bring it back up to that time. I mean, it predates Tom and I being involved in Comcast or in cable, period. It's old equipment.
Yeah.
It's very hard to find parts and replacements, etc.
is it true that Matthew Brady used it?
No, it was Samuel Morse.
Oh, Morse.
It really is very, very old equipment and hard. But let's listen to somebody who says it will take X amount of dollars to bring it up to what it used to be.
George, is it reasonable to say, sitting here as, I hope, reasonable people, we know that it's going to take money to bring it up to a certain level, but that's almost a side issue when the party that is arguably responsible for making it happen has already said that they will not make it happen. I mean, I think we've got a fundamental problem with respect to their unwillingness to step up to the plate.
They might make it happen as the way that franchise is written, but it doesn't buy new equipment. They have said, unilaterally, there isn't going to be any new equipment that they purchase. My answer was, okay, tell me how much it's going to cost you from a reliable third party, not related to either one of us. How much is it going to cost? Is it going to be X thousand, Y thousand? We don't know. Let's take that. We can put it into a pool. We've raised some money to help on this project. I can't wait for Comcast to give us what we should have, or indeed for the law to require them to do so. I can't sit there any longer with a single camera operation. It must end.
I think Jim is correct in his assessment of sending it to the solicitor and asking him to begin to prepare to move forward beyond the point that we're at this moment.
If they understand that there's a certain amount of money they can put into it, and we throw it in, I'd rather argue the point after getting back to where we need to be and should be. I've got a station to run.
We'll get to that point, George, but this has been...
Yeah, there seems to be no good faith on the part of Comcast that
So far.
there's certain intransigence and I mean, I think we have to use some leverage either on their franchise when it comes up. I'm sure there's another.
We are in that too.
We are in that.
Yeah.
We are in that process.
That's why I'm baffled myself.
And you know, I think we as a board indicated at last meeting that we would not be looking favorably at extending the franchise as we did the last time, but bring them to the table and either renew it or take whatever action pursues from that.
I'm wondering whether the people at Comcast, the others, realize that their behavior is putting their franchise in jeopardy. I mean, they've got quite an
I
investment here.
think when you have taken and consolidated areas and dumped on a person who was not necessarily familiar with what are our operations, they've simply given them hundreds and hundreds, if you can speak to this, hundreds and hundreds of people or franchises to deal with. The very fact that, and this is something that was revealed to me today, that Comcast doesn't have a representative here tonight is that they are meeting with Wilmington. Well, obviously, Wilmington is a little larger than Radnor Township, and they take their priorities in sort of a triage approach. But we think we're important, and every individual in our area is important. And
Exactly.
We want the best.
Well, we have a responsibility to our citizens, and that's what we have to discharge.
Exactly.
And,
Well, I'll do my part.
well, George, I'm not saying that your answer is not the right practical answer, but I think at this stage of the game, we have to become a little bit more proactive than we have in order to get this
As soon as I hear a
accomplished.
number, it will return to you.
Thank you, George.
Thank
Anything
you.
else?
No, except Radnor Studio 21 is still there, and we hope you watch it. Thanks
Good.
very much.
Thank you.
Very good. Thank you.
Since Comcast is not here, we will hear from Verizon. Stephanie?
Hi, how's everybody? I have a couple of brief updates I can give. Just yesterday, I sent notice to Jim, and I handed to Art coming in, we have some channel changes, music choice channel changes that occurred today. These were provider changes, a lot of realignment of some of the channels. So hopefully by now you've seen a copy of the listing of the old channel placement, the new channel placement, as well as the notice that went to subscribers on our message center on the television. We're not mailing this in U.S. mail. It's going on screen, or when they go to the actual old channel, it gives them direction to go to the new channel.
I will say this, I've been into those channels before I knew you were changing the locations, and it's a very interesting and very, very nice presentation there.
Oh, good. I will take your comment back to the folks that set all that up. So, thank you. The other thing that I'm hearing that tomorrow we're going to be expanding the usability of our web access. For those of you who may or may not be aware, if you're a Verizon subscriber, you have access to a website, or there's a website exists called Verizon Fios TV Central, or Verizon Fios Central, and you sign in, you register and you sign in, and from there you can go in and program remotely you can program your set-top boxes. So if you're in the office and you want to see what's on TV tonight, a video on demand or something, or set parental controls, for example, you can do that remotely. We're also currently trialing the capability to do that same functionality on your cell phone, certain models of cell phones. So
Now, could you give us the address again, please?
I will give it to you, but probably what I should do better is also email it to Jim so he can forward it. But here, if you want to write it down, it's www.verizon.com/FiosTV/web. Would you like me to repeat that?
Please,
www.360.verizon.com/FiosTV/web.
Very good.
There's a ton of information there, a ton of information, not just on what I'm talking about now, but everything about the Fios TV product. So it's great for subscribers to go to access. Anybody can access the website. Obviously, to get in and manage your own account, you have to register and you'll have your own sign-in so that unauthorized users can't do that.
And could you program a TiVo or some other recording devices from this also?
It's for programming your DVR, yes.
Okay.
That's probably the main purpose of it. So if you're out and you forget, CSI is coming on, for example, I wanted to tape it, record it, you can do that remotely.
Good, thank you.
Sure.
Is there any other questions? You have anything else to report?
That's it, yeah.
Okay, good. Well, thank you. Thank you very much.
Okay.
Do we have any old business? New business, we have an application from T-Mobile for a wireless communication. Don, would you?
Yes, thank you, sir.
Come forward, please.
Good evening. My name is Donald Petros. I'm an attorney representing T-Mobile Northeast LLC, and this is an application for a use permit to install wireless communications facilities on a utility pole on Bryn Mawr Avenue near Malin Road. And with me this evening are Doug Cowan, who is a planning professional who works for Site Acquisition Services and authorized T-Mobile agent, Eric Ritter of CMX Project Engineers, and Bassam Iskander, a radio frequency engineer. The pole, the Pico pole, is located within the right-of-way, as I say, of Bryn Mawr Avenue, and I would call it on the south side of Bryn Mawr Avenue, just east of Malin Road. It's a couple hundred feet east of Malin Road. And the application is very similar to another application that we did for a site on Sproul Road. We were before you on a couple of occasions. And what is proposed is to replace an existing guy pole with a taller pole. The height of the proposed pole is 72 feet from the bottom to the top. And it's a wood utility pole. All of the equipment would be located on the pole, so there would be nothing on the ground at all. And the existing utility pole has guy wires running to the other side of Bryn Mawr Avenue on still within the right-of-way, but on property that's actually owned by the township. Frankly, I'm not quite sure what there's just a strip of property there that the township has. I don't know what it's used for. It doesn't appear to be used for anything, really. And when we first looked at it, we were thinking of going on that side of Bryn Mawr Avenue at the township's property. But I think it's a 34 kV line, and Pico would allow us to go on that and suggested that we go to where the guy pole is, where there isn't any Pico equipment on it. And as we discussed the last time, the ordinance is section 280-165. This is of the township zoning ordinance, allows these types of facilities on utility poles, light poles, mast arms, or other structures in all zoning districts upon the issuance of a use permit. And we filed this application, I believe, on March 31st, 2009, and provided all of the requisite information. There's a whole list of things that need to be provided. And because of our last experience where the commissioners directed us to the Communications Council, we asked to be placed on the agenda for the Communications Council, and you graciously agreed to allow us to do that. Eric, could you bring up the zoning drawings? We'll put them here if we may. Okay. I think that, let's see. All right, this is good to start. This is the next sheet, S1 on the other side. Mm-hmm. Great. This shows the location of the pole. And this is Malin Road right here, and this is Bryn Mawr Avenue along here. I guess I should be using this, should I not? Okay. So here's Bryn Mawr Avenue. Westchester Pike would be in this direction. Sproul Road would be in this direction. And Malin Road comes up here, and that's where the pole is located. That's where the pole that across the street is located that I mentioned earlier that we originally thought that we would go. And it's a pretty heavily wooded area. We actually do have, I'm going to show you in a few minutes, some photo sims that would show the proposed pole in this location. If I can turn to sheet S1. This shows the proposed pole, as I say, with a total height of 72 feet. The center of the antenna, that's the antenna at the top. Mm-hmm. It's really as you can see in the detail sheet, there is a 63-inch galvanized pipe down here in the detail, and the antenna are actually mounted on the galvanized pipe. There are 3 antennae, and they're kind of flush mounted. And as coming down the pole, there's some other equipment that's located on the pole, including equipment cabinets. So it's, in that respect, it's identical to the last application. And you can also see some of the trees that are here, but you'll be able to see that better on the photos.
Before you go, just let me clarify something. This pole is situated in the right-of-way.
Yes,
Okay,
yes, it is.
thank you.
Now, I guess the reason for it is the same as the reason last time, that we have an existing gap in coverage T-Mobile does, which they're trying to fill. And we do have propagation maps, and if you'd like to see those, I would ask the radio frequency engineer to come up in a few minutes and show you the before and after maps that show the lack of coverage now graphically and the coverage that we would have with this proposed facility. But I think that I would like to show you the photo sims at this point. First is let me take this one back. First is an aerial exhibit, which is helpful, I think, in sort of locating a little better where we are. Again, this is Bryn Mawr Avenue, and this is Malin Road. As you know, there's a pretty good hill there going up Malin Road, and that's the site right there. So you can see that really around here, there are not a lot of residences. This obviously is the closest residence, but other than that, there are not a lot immediately around the location. And we have 2 views. The first view is actually looking back towards Sproul Road, and we have Eric Ritter has superimposed the proposed pole in that drawing. So that's not there. This one, that's the replacement for the guy tower. This is the pole that's across the street, the existing telephone pole, and the guy wires going across it.
Mr. Petrosa, do you have a picture of the site as it exists today with the existing pole?
I think we do. I will try to come up with that.
Just so we can get a perspective.
Just
of
reference.
what it is
Yeah,
today.
I think I'll try to come up with that in just a second, if I may. And this is the other view, looking in the opposite direction, which I'm saying, looking towards Westchester Pike, and that right there is the proposed pole. This is an existing pole, and you can see it. It's kind of hard to see, but it's right there. And obviously, it would be less visible when the foliage is on the trees than when it is on the trees. I think, Eric, do you have some existing, the 2 existing ones? Okay. Let me see if we have those.
Thank you.
Do I understand that there's a pole there now?
There is, but it's a very short pole. It's about, because it's a guy pole, it's much shorter than the other existing telephone poles. The existing telephone poles are probably 45-foot poles across the street. The guy poles are shorter because they're not really supporting anything except the guy wires. And this one, they vary from about 24 to 27 feet or so. This one's probably about 24 feet in height,
Okay.
the existing guy pole.
So if we're looking on our screen, it's right behind that little sign there. Yeah,
Right.
just a little left of the sign.
There it is.
Yeah. And could we see the other photo sim?
Yeah, the after.
Yes, please. Okay. Good, thank you.
Sure. And that, we've provided all the information. There's a number of things that you need to provide: a certificate of insurance, a copy of the license, a report from showing that you do not exceed the FCC limits for radio frequency emissions. And once again, we're at a very, very tiny fraction of what the FCC allows. It's I think it's 0.15% of the FCC limits at any place on the ground, and we provided the report, and 0.3% of the FCC limits at 26 feet above ground, which is typically a second story, the roof of a two-story house in that area. So we think we comply with all of the requirements. If you're interested, and if you'd like to, I can call on the radio frequency engineer to come up and just show the existing coverage and the coverage we would have.
Actually, I would be interested in that.
Okay. All right, Bassem. This is Bassem Iskander, Iskander. And in the packets, there are, I know you probably don't have this in front of you, he has ones that he can put on here, but we did submit the propagation maps that he'll be reviewing.
Good evening.
Good evening.
This is what we call a propagation plot. It's basically a snapshot of what our network looks like. What you see is Goshen Road traveling horizontally on this map, a little bit north of the site. This red dot here represents our site, and these blue dots here on the left side of the map up north. Better idea. And here represent our current active sites. The other pole that we were approved for is this one here on Sproul Road, and it's not built yet, but I'm showing it as active. I'm showing what our coverage would look like if it was on air.
The dark area or the shaded area is the site that you cover?
The shaded area on this map, the yellow, is the coverage that is obtained from the active sites plus the site that is approved and
Right.
it's going to be constructed. The white area is where we have our gap in coverage.
Okay.
So this is a before picture, and if the board wishes, I can explain
Please
any
move forward.
technical. Okay.
No.
This is our after picture. This is what the resulting coverage from this site. It does cover a lot more to the north and to the west than it does to the south because of the hill that's there. We couldn't get it higher. If we can get it higher, it would cover more, but we feel that this would be sufficient enough to serve the area around it.
From looking at this map, it looks like you're going to have to put additional poles in and around to keep that gap from happening on Goshen Road, and is that a
At this
fair
time,
estimate or fair assessment of what may be looking at in the future?
We may in the future, but at this time I can speak to probably the next year or so. There's nothing planned in this area. There may be other plans elsewhere, but nothing in the vicinity of
This to continue to shade it, okay.
Do you have a similar map at different pole heights? For instance, I seem to recall that the application on the Sproul Road property was for a pole of approximately 64 feet?
67.
67 feet.
This is about 5 feet.
So this is 5 feet higher. Do you have a map that shows coverage at different heights, or why are we looking at 72 as opposed to some other lower height?
Or higher.
Well, lower wouldn't really benefit us at all. And I was asked as a radio frequency engineer, what is our minimum acceptable height? And that comes from structural reasons and not wanting to create a monster here in the area. So this was our minimum height. Going lower than this, our coverage would die off pretty quickly. Going higher, of course, would go better, but I don't have, to answer your question, I don't have a map at higher heights.
But Bassem, is there some reason why this height we're proposing 72 feet versus the 67 feet that was in the last case. Anything about the topography?
Of course, this is on the edge of a hill. It's kind of on a downslope. There's a hill directly to the south of the site that is maybe 40 feet higher than it. We needed to clear that hill and clear the clutter so to get any kind of effective coverage south of the site. That's the reason this is a little bit higher than the other one.
So if I look at the topography, the foot of the pole is at about 250 or so, and it continues to escalate up. I see 268 or whatever.
Correct.
Continues to escalate up. Okay, questions? Okay. Thank you very much.
Unless you have any questions, that's pretty much the information we wanted to present to you.
We appreciate that, and as you know, we cannot officially act on this until the ordinance is in place. We will keep you posted, and we'll keep you posted as we move forward with this. We thank you very much for coming.
Okay, and I guess I can perhaps check with staff
Yes.
as to
Yeah.
where things stand with regard to that. Because I understand the predicament you're in. There's no clear-cut procedure spelled out as to exactly what you're supposed to do. I'm just not quite sure how long it might take till that ordinance is in place, but we'll find out together, I guess.
Right. Steve, would you just make a note that as the situation on the ordinance clears up, that we keep Don and his people.
I will let Mr.
advised?
Petrosa know the status of the ordinance, yes.
Great, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any public participation? Hearing none, I'll accept a motion for adjournment.
I'll move to adjourn.
All in favor? We are
Aye.
adjourned.